GTA 6 this, GTA 6 that. Let's talk about the game that Rockstar hasn't announced yet, hasn't teased, hasn't even remotely acknowledged publicly, but somehow it dominates gaming conversations every few months like it already exists. Does it? Red Dead Redemption 3. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Honestly, that alone says everything about how massive this franchise became after Red Dead Redemption 2, because we're almost a decade removed from RDR2, which is crazy to say. GTA 6? Right around the corner. People are already trying to figure out what Rockstar's next monster project's going to be, and every single road eventually circles back to Red Dead. And I've got you covered with all the latest leaks, news, rumors, confirmations, speculations, timeline, characters, all of it. Now here's the thing. There's a difference between Rockstar's making Red Dead 3 and Rockstar will eventually make another Red Dead game. Those are two completely different conversations, because officially, Rockstar has said nothing, nada, zilch, no logo, no teaser, no trademark, bombshell, nothing. But at the same time, Take-Two's Strauss Zelnick himself has literally called Red Dead a permanent franchise before, which is a corporate speak for, yeah, we're absolutely not done making money with this money printer. And then you've got Dan Houser, one of the original masterminds behind Red Dead, saying he thinks another game will probably happen someday, even though he personally viewed Arthur and John's story as a complete and full arc. That's the key part people skip over. He didn't say Red Dead is over. He just said that the story here feels complete. Honestly, I agree with him. Let me know in the comments, do you agree with him? Because if you think about it, Red Dead 1 and 2 together form one of the most complete narratives gaming has ever had. Arthur's story feels directly tied into John's. John's story feeds directly into Jack's. By the time the credits roll in RDR1, I mean, Rockstar, they pretty much killed off the entire Old West emotionally and literally. So if they do Red Dead 3, the big question is, what exactly is Red Dead Redemption without Arthur and John? And that is where the rumors start, I'll just say, getting interesting. The biggest theory right now floating around, and honestly probably the most divisive one, is that Jack Marston route. So we're basically pushing the timeline forward into the late 1910s or even the 20s, and we're going to make Jack the main protagonist. And I do understand why people are split on this, because technically it makes sense. Jack is the last surviving thread of the Marston story. Red Dead 1 ends with him basically becoming the thing his father tried to save him from. Revenge consumes him, he kills Ross, spoiler alert, sorry. And suddenly you've got this kid standing at the edge of a completely changed America. That's a pretty fascinating setup narratively, but here's the problem. Does that feel like Red Dead? Because once you move into the 1920s, you're getting into paved roads, more cars, organized crime, machine guns, urban cities, industrial America, possibly even early mafia-style storytelling of the Prohibition era. At some point, you stop making a Western and you are basically making an early version GTA. And I think Rockstar knows that is a very dangerous line to walk with this IP. And that's why I personally think if they do continue with Jack, they're probably going to keep it right on the edge of the dying West. Maybe 1914, 1915, somewhere in there where horses still dominate, but civilization is creeping in harder than ever. I mean, that could actually be insanely emotional, because Red Dead has always been about people who don't belong in the future. Arthur didn't, John didn't, Dutch definitely didn't. Jack would basically be the final evolution of that theme. Jack would be the last outlaw generation trying to survive in a modernizing world. Honestly, that sounds Rockstar. That sounds Red Dead, because there's also one more theory that a lot of fans prefer. They want to go backwards. Again, a full Prime West prequel. I'm not going to lie. That one actually sounds more likely to me. I don't know if it's what I want, but it sounds more likely, because if there's one thing Red Dead Redemption 2 proved, it's that Rockstar absolutely loves telling stories about the end of an era. So imagine them going even further back into the true golden age of the West. I'm talking peak gunslinger era, young Dutch, young Hosea, maybe even the formation of the Vanderlyn gang itself, seeing the gang before everything fell apart, before paranoia, betrayal, before Micah infected everything. And that's where things could get really emotional, because Red Dead 2 constantly talks about events we never saw. We never saw the Blackwater setup. We never saw Dutch in his prime. The early gang years when they supposedly helped people and actually believed in something, we've only heard the stories about that version of the gang. We never lived it. And Rockstar loves tragedy where you already know the ending. That's literally what made RDR2 work. You knew John survives. You knew the gang collapses. You knew Dutch loses himself. But somehow, Rockstar still made you emotionally invested in all of it. So imagine playing as a young Jose, or even a completely new character, witnessing the rise of the Vanderlyn gang from the beginning. It's pretty plausible. There's one more rumor I want to share with you guys, get your opinions on it. It's floating around. Involves those Rockstar job listings people keep obsessing over. You know, the ones mentioning AI systems, open worlds, vehicles, all that stuff. And naturally, the internet instantly went, oh my God, Red Dead 3 confirmed. But honestly, those listings could apply to literally anything Rockstar does. GTA, new IP, Bully, Midnight Club, anything. The only reason people tie it to Red Dead is because Rockstar's AI and world simulation stuff already fits perfectly with what RDR2 did. So let's be honest here. Red Dead Redemption 2 still feels ahead of most games technologically. The NPC schedules, the wildlife systems, the weather, all of it, the conversation, the random counters, the sheer level of immersion that Rockstar achieved is pretty ridiculous. So imagine what they would do with the current hardware and moving forward. Like, imagine if NPCs actually remembered your actions dynamically across towns, or gang systems evolved organically, or even entire regions economically changed depending on your choices. Rockstar has pushed immersion harder than anybody, and Red Dead is honestly where they seem the most passionate about doing that. That's another reason I think Red Dead 3 is coming, because GTA prints money. Red Dead? I think Red Dead gives Rockstar prestige. That's the franchise where they flex their storytelling. And speaking of storytelling, one thing I really hope they avoid is trying too hard to top Arthur Morgan emotionally. I mean, I've already seen people saying they need another Arthur level ending, and honestly, that's dangerous thinking. Arthur worked because nobody expected him to become one of the greatest protagonists ever made. He wasn't trying to replace John. He wasn't written as the next big emotional death. Rockstar naturally built the character over time. So trying to artificially recreate that magic usually doesn't work. It actually usually backfires. What Rockstar should do, in my opinion, is create a completely different emotional angle. Less redemption, more survival, maybe focus on family, greed, corruption, civilization taking over the frontier, stuff like that. Because if every Red Dead game becomes beloved outlaw slowly dies while reflecting on morality, eventually the formula is going to get predictable and boring. And another thing people forget, GTA 6 changes everything about that timeline here. Rockstar is all hands on deck for GTA 6. The game is consuming everything. The studio, everything. It's swallowing everything up. I mean, games have to move out of the way. Means even if Red Dead 3 is in early planning, which I truly believe it is, I think it's in the concept stages, we're nowhere near seeing it. I think some fans are genuinely underestimating how far away this is. I'll tell you right now, we could realistically be talking 2030 at the earliest, probably into the 2030s. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy until remember Rockstar basically releases one gigantic game per generation. That's just who they are. They spend absurd amounts of time building these worlds because they know once they drop, the entire industry stops, and they pay attention and they shell out money. But I'll say this, the longer Rockstar waits, I think the harder expectations become, because Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't just a great game. It's become one of those games, one of the untouchable industry benchmark games that people compare everything to. So if Red Dead 3 isn't competing against other games, it's competing against Red Dead 2. That's tough. But if there's one studio that can pull it off, it's Rockstar. So, prediction time. If I had to predict where they go, I think they avoid Jack as the sole protagonist. I think they either go full prequel doing the true Wild West era like we talked about, or they create an entirely new cast disconnected from the Marston storyline completely. Maybe tiny references, cameos, Easter eggs, maybe some crossover characters, but I think Dan Houser's comments about the original story feeling complete, that means something. I think it's the smartest move, too, to be honest with you. Red Dead was never really about John or Arthur specifically. It was about the death of freedom, the death of the outlaw myth, the death of the West itself. I mean, that theme can work with new characters. That's why people are obsessed with Red Dead Redemption 3, even without a trailer, with no gameplay. I mean, no leaks, really, that we can trust. The world Rockstar created, they're just stuck in people's heads. It's burned in there. So, yeah, Red Dead 3's coming. It's just a ways off. And the real question is whether Rockstar rides forward into the future with Jack, or if they're going to ride backwards one final time into the true heart of the Wild West before it all disappears. Let me know what you think. Give me your predictions, and I'll see you soon.